It's Tuesday, August 7th, 2012. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, tournaments.
Let's do this.
I am back from Brazil.
Brazil.
I'll do a show later, like on some Thursday, about being in Brazil, but it was pretty fun. I would go again.
Yeah, Brazil is a weird place because it has good things and bad
Well, I'll put
things
it this way.
in great combination.
The city, Sao Paulo, super modern, super chill.
Why wouldn't it be modern?
We wandered around like the equivalent of Fifth Avenue and had nice dinners, and it was
Beaches.
great. But at the same time, you notice that half the cars on the street are armored, as in an inch of bulletproof glass and bomb-proofing.
Yep.
And yeah, the one thing that I can say is that I did some research. Brazil recently fell off of the top 10 list of most violent countries. So they're getting better. A lot of violent crime and kidnapping, though.
Yeah.
But no, hopefully I'll get to
also
go
lots
back
of good
soon.
stuff.
In fact, I may well get to go back soon.
It's weird that a lot of countries, it's like you look around the world and it's like, aha, you live in the U.S. and you look around and you say, look at that country. They have something awesome that we don't have. Like Portugal, you can just, the drug policy there is great. What problems do they have? The economy, not so great.
They speak Portuguese.
Well, in Brazil they do as well.
Yeah, let me tell you, Portuguese, Spanish. People who speak Portuguese can understand Spanish just fine. But people who speak Spanish can't understand shit of what Portuguese people say.
Okay.
And the weirdest part of that is I could read the menus at restaurants better than the Spanish-speaking learning Portuguese guy I was with, because a lot of it was in Japanese.
Really?
There's a lot of Asians there.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I'd be like, yeah, shimeji, whatever, different names of fish. I got this.
Yeah, fish is probably good down there.
Yeah, fish was pretty good down there.
Nice. All right.
So yeah, I'm back, regular schedule until PAX, and then there's going to be, I don't know what's going to happen.
I don't know.
We're going to be gone collectively for like 3 weeks.
Yeah. So remember I talked a whole lot about my new computer in the last
Oh
episode.
yeah, your tiny god.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I don't want to go on for 100 years about it, but I've never bought a computer before in my life that was so powerful relative to what is available on the market.
Scott, when I bought this computer, it was that, so I know exactly how you feel
It is
right
like,
now.
I can do anything. And it's like I bought this stupid Adobe Creative Cloud, so now I feel like I can make any things that I can imagine, I can make it.
It is a powerful moment when you drag an hour-long, like 1080p 60 video into Premiere, and it's like, boop.
Yep, and it's even crazier. So it's like I'll have everything open that I usually have open, and I'll have like Premiere rendering a video, and I'll have like Lightroom organizing a photo, and iTunes importing all these MP3s, and full screen 3D game max settings, and there's no slowdown. The fans don't even get loud.
My, how times have changed, because I remember at RIT, because remember when we first all met, there's the cycle of who has the baddest ass computer at any given time among a group of friends.
The EP competition.
When we all got to RIT, that was me, because I spent every bond my grandparents had bought me for 19 years on a computer. Right before I went to RIT.
Mine was a Pentium 3 450.
Yeah,
Yours
mine was an AMD like K7 800.
Oh, right. We switched to AMD, and they
Yeah.
kept breaking. We kept upgrading and breaking and upgrading
Yeah,
until
because
we
then
switched back to Intel.
I upgraded to the Thunderbird gigahertz.
Yeah, that's another thing I want to say, right, is, there are still people out there, I realize, that are all AMD-ish, and, I looked at AMD, and it's like, yeah, you can get like a 6-core AMD for $100. It's like, whoa.
At the really low end, or not the really low end, but at the not like plateau of performance, AMD is still way cheaper.
Yeah, but the thing is, I first had an Pentium 3. It was my first computer I built, and that computer never had a problem, ever.
Oh, simpler anecdote. Every Intel computer I've ever built booted on the first try. No AMD computer I've ever built booted on the first try.
We built AMD computers from like all through the Pentium 4 years up until the Core 2
Which was
Duo
always
years.
the like me, Scott, and a bunch of the other crew standing around a computer being like, why won't it boot?
Yeah.
Well, let's
you know
take
how
the
I
RAM
had
out.
how many like AMD CPUs did we have lying around?
Oh my
and
God,
extra motherboards.
I still have all those AMD CPUs.
Right, we had all this stuff lying around. Why? Because the shit kept breaking. So now I'm sure AMD might be just fine now, and Intel is
to
way
be
more
fair,
money.
the shit that broke wasn't the CPUs. It was always the jank.
I had a
ass
bad CPU at
really?
least
I
once.
did.
Yeah.
I never have had
But
a
anyway,
bad
the
CPU.
point is that
it was always those jank ass 8-bit motherboards.
Well, the Pentium motherboard motherboard, the first one I had was 8-bit. It was perfect.
The
BX,
thing is,
whatever.
around that era is when I was getting like, let's overclock it, 8-bit like super motherboards.
I didn't even overclock, but all those AMD years, shit broke. The whole AMD ecosystem of hardware was not reliable in those years for us. And every Intel computer I've had has been 100% stable. My first one, Pentium 3, was stable. The Core 2 Duo that I just replaced is still in great condition. If you want it, contact me.
I also have a Core 2 Duo that you can have. However,
and the new one I just bought, booted on the first try, perfect, everything amazing.
there's something wrong with that motherboard because USB will occasionally cause it to voltage drop and hard crash.
Anyway.
Oh,
but yeah, and having 2 of the Dell Ultra Sharp monitors on ARMs is pretty sick. Yeah. So if you want my old monitors,
this past weekend, you may know that we know many people who work at Muse Games. Like a whole bunch of our friends work there.
Yep.
And they're working on a new game. It's Guns of Icarus Online. There's been a beta for a while, and I was in it, but I played it for real over the weekend because it's getting to the point of like being good.
You
and
can
playable.
actually play it.
And it was actually really fun. Emily was like, come on, play my game, try it out. I'm like, okay, I'll stop playing Counter-Strike and play this new game. And it's no slight to Guns of Icarus because it is hard to convince me to play any game that isn't Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
So I start to play, and then I just kind of kept playing for some hours because it was actually really fun.
Were there people playing it?
Yeah, there were. So we were doing like...
And the network part worked?
Yeah.
That's the most important thing is that, you all these indie games, the network shit doesn't work.
The network shit actually worked perfectly. There was glitchy stuff in the game, but it was the kind of like game balance, game mechanic glitchiness that you expect from a beta.
Not like, oops, I walked through the wall. Oops, I fell off the airship.
At one point I fell off a ship, and instead of dying, I just kept falling forever.
Nice.
But mostly it worked, and the game is actually super fun. And me and Adam ended up being on a ship at one point. And here's why this game is actually fun. Like the whole gist of it is that you'll have multiple ships, like 2 ships per team. Mm-hmm. And each ship has like 4 or 5, a bunch of people on it. Mm-hmm. And you run around FPS style on the ship, repairing stuff, Team Fortress 2 style, and like manning guns. Yep. And someone's the captain, and they're steering it. And the steering feels like this kind of like steampunk thing. Mm-hmm. The steering and the logistics and the teamwork and all that stuff actually matters a lot. Mm-hmm. Like at one point, Adam was the captain on my ship. And it's like when we play Counter-Strike. If 2 people who know what the fuck they're doing in games are on the same team in a game, shit goes down. Mm-hmm. And yeah, shit went down. Adam was like, they're coming up on the left, and he'd pull maneuvers through the smoke. We'd like get into the smoke and then reappear behind someone suddenly and just open up a broadside. The game was surprisingly fun for a still beta game. Mm-hmm. So that's my initial Geek Bite, and I'm going to do a more thorough Geek Bite once I play the game a little more and possibly play it against strangers instead of with someone I know. Mm-hmm. Adam, you're a good captain.
All right.
But don't use that. There's this thing you can use that like speeds up your ship, but it also ruins your engines, and I think he turned it on and forgot to turn it off. So
it's not like a one-time burst. It's like a lever that you put in one of 2 modes.
It's basically like pour moonshine into the engine, and you get like 300% speed, but then the engine takes damage.
All right, but you just kept the moonshine was constantly
moonshine
pouring.
was just flowing like water.
Okay,
or I guess like gasoline.
You didn't run out of it. I mean, it takes a while.
Well, the engine's all exploded.
How many X was it?
3 X's on the bottle.
Yeah, we learned the X's on the moonshine bottle. That's how many times it's been through the still. Every time you put it through the still, you put another X. That's what moonshine. Yeah. Anyway.
There you go.
All right.
More you know.
So let's just do some news here. Let's not blow our whole load. That we have plenty of stuff to talk about in future episodes.
So I'm always conflicted when a company I hate sues another company I hate. And
the thing is, usually when that happens. And this hasn't been happening lately, but whenever anyone sues anyone, I mostly just want the court to set the precedent the way that I want, because I want what I want.
Well, there's 2 things. Or if it's people I hate, I want them to do as much damage to each other as possible.
That's also true. But so when it's 2 people you hate, you want anyway. So what's going on?
So EA has sued Zynga.
Well, Zynga. I mean, I hate EA, but Zynga is worse.
Well, EA is just kind of exploiting their workers, making generic
Well,
games.
they already got sued for exploiting their workers, and they supposedly fixed that, I guess.
Yeah, but
I
no,
don't
the
know.
video game industry is fucked when it comes to worker treatment. That's a
true.
separate
Yeah,
issue.
unionize everybody.
But yeah, they're like the Microsoft of the gaming world.
Yeah.
Microsoft in the 90s to nerds. Anyway, Zynga. Well, no, they're not a game company. Zynga doesn't make games.
Not really.
I've said that on lectures. I've said that at PAX. I've said it on the shelves later. Zynga does not make anything that competes with what I would call a game. They make games in the same way that patty cake is a game, but replace patty cake with patty, and then you got to put a quarter in to get the cakes. So EA is suing Zynga over copyright infringement, and this is where things get weird, because if you don't know, game mechanics, game rules, things like that, not copyrightable
No,
at all.
You can,
There is so much precedent for you not being
Right,
able to
well,
copyright the rules of a game.
Right, you don't copyright rules of a game. You copyright,
Assets in a game. No,
artwork
assets.
or music.
A specific, like, for example, a drawing, a music, a background.
Yeah, that's artworks are copyrighted. Something like game mechanics would be an invention that'd be patented. And
even then, it's very
your
difficult to
logo
patent
of
them.
your company or the logo and name of your game would be trademark.
So you can't sue someone and win by all the legal precedent we who are not lawyers know of. And I read like 10 articles.
Well, you could. What if I made an FPS that used like all the sprites from Doom, but it wasn't
you didn't let
Doom?
me finish.
Right.
Based on game mechanics.
Of course not.
And every time there's been a lawsuit that worked about someone stealing a game, it's always been like, yeah, they stole all the backgrounds from Morrowind or something like that.
Right.
But in this case, no, EA is suing over a game because it's mechanically and stylistically similar to their game.
Mm-hmm. Well, did their lawyers be smart?
I don't know what's going on because
I mean, like, how could we know more than people who are lawyers 24/7?
So what's interesting is that the mainstream media, like Wall Street Journal type news organizations, are saying the same thing we're saying. They're like, what the fuck is EA doing? You can't sue for that. That's not even covered by the law. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, look at around the world. This is why you can see a lot of like Monopoly clones out there, but you just can't call it something like Opoly because you'll get trademark sued.
Yep.
But if you just call it like the Scott game, but it looks just like Monopoly and it plays like Monopoly.
Dude, how many people
But doesn't have Monopoly Man on it and doesn't use like Baltic, those names as different names and different colors. And
How many people have taken that old Mafia/Werewolf game and remade it? I'm doing it even.
yeah.
It's not, you can't copyright that. But so every article I've read has had a quote from a lawyer or an analyst or someone who basically said, what the fuck is EA doing? This is a ludicrous lawsuit.
Yep.
But they've always qualified it by saying, not that Zynga is a good company.
Well, because, you got to make Zynga basically does just clone all the games. They see someone else's successful game, they make the same exact game.
Zynga's like the evil team in the Mighty Ducks.
Right, then
they're not breaking
Zynga-
the rules, but they're still evil.
They see a game that's successful, they directly copy it and Zyngaify it and tweak it slightly so. They crook, make it tie, make it T, make it two, make it two.
Every time I click, it's $9.95 to you.
That's right. And then they stick it on Facebook and iPhone and whatnot, and that's that. So
yeah,
they're not exactly, the bestest. I mean, imagine if we just made a game that was the same game as Puerto Rico, but we called it Geeknights Rico, and we changed all the artworks and all the things.
Legally, that's fine. Morally, gray area.
But if we put that out, we would be punished in the marketplace because everyone in that marketplace would know, hey, this is a Puerto Rico clone, and no one would buy it.
Unless we made it online and easy to play. Because
Well, actually, I was thinking, right, what if we did that evilly, right? And what we did is we basically just made the board game versions, the physical versions, with very low production values, but still playable, and we made them way cheaper. So it's like Puerto Rico, $10 because it's a cheap-ass version, but it's not called Puerto Rico. It's Geeknights whatnot.
That'd be on the morally gray, shitty business practice level of the stuff Zynga does.
But legal.
Yeah, and you know what? In my opinion, not a lawyer, everything Zynga's doing here is pretty legal. There's nothing.
See, the thing is, right?
EA's lawsuit is groundless.
They is currently legal, but I'm not sure what my opinion is.
Scott, if you're
but
okay with copywriting game mechanics, then you're okay
No.
with a much deeper copyrightability of things like algorithms.
I am considering making my opinion. I'm not saying this is my current
All
opinion.
right, you realize my hackles are up. I'm ready to argue here.
That Zynga-like games are so basically they're gambling and should be regulated as such, even though. Because imagine if I made a slot machine, but the slot machine had a guaranteed payout of 0, but you had to pay a quarter, you pulled the lever.
I'll play the devil's advocate because we should do a separate show on this. Wait a minute. We're going to be talking about this at both PAX Prime and PAX Dev on 2 different panels.
I'm feeling like, that's like even, Solitaire Blitz is kind of fun from PopCap, but I'm feeling like it's just a evil slot machine and sort of shouldn't, maybe shouldn't be, I'm not sure.
I know. I'm just saying
I'm considering changing my opinion to that it shouldn't be allowed.
Here's the counter-argument to be considered.
Or at least should be regulated.
That free speech is number one, right?
I agree.
So,
I know. That's why I'm only considering.
Because are we going to say that a game is no longer free speech?
It is speech.
When movies, books, pictographs, drawings, music, everything else is free speech?
But a game can also, because of what it is, right? Because it is a thing that you do and not just a thing that you experience.
Should gambling be regulated?
That is a good question.
And also,
I sort of think
why does gambling matter if there's no payout? The only reason you regulate gambling is to make sure that at least the people who do gamble don't get fucked by an unregulated
But it's also to make sure
situation.
But it's also to make sure
the state
that
gets
the
its cut.
casino doesn't cheat the people.
That's what I'm saying, to make sure that that there's not some unregulated market where the consumers don't know what they're buying.
Mm-hmm.
But games like this, like these crappy socially games, I feel like social game is code for shit game at this point.
Yeah.
But do those games not tell you exactly what they're doing?
Not 100% of the time. They don't necessarily tell you like all the mechanics of the game. Like, yeah, this thing gives you 100% chance of this happening within 5 whatevers.
Right. So Scott, if we regulate those games, what's the line? Does Half-Life have to tell you how many points of damage the new gun does?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm only considering.
Yeah.
But there's still some, it is sort of a man trap, right? It's like certain kinds of advertising are illegal. You know?
Only advertising that is actually directly false, or because of weird regulations, cigarette ads.
Well, yeah, but subliminal advertising, even though it doesn't work, is illegal.
But
right?
that was made illegal under a very shady pretenses and would probably not stand up in court if it was challenged.
But it doesn't work. But imagine if
I'm saying
it
because
did.
No, I'm saying 1, because it doesn't work, it wouldn't stand up in court, I don't believe. And 2,
okay, even
if it did work, would it really be fair to regulate it? Because what if I wrote a novel that subliminally...
Let's not waste the whole episode on this, but I'm going to ask one ask one question, and then we will not answer it, and then we'll move on.
Okay, and then I'll ask another question. And
no. The question is,
you'll like my question.
If I invented a mind control device, should it be illegal? That's the question. Don't answer it. Let's just move on.
So my question is, do we care if Zynga gets fucked or not?
No.
So here's my personal read on this.
Let's
think
move on.
What EA is trying to do here is get a precedent set to change the way these things work in the courts. I think EA is going to try to use its muscle to get the court to argue or to agree that certain aspects of game mechanics are copyrightable. And regardless of whether or not you think this lawsuit has merit, because again, Zynga basically steals stuff for all intents and purposes. If EA wins this lawsuit, the ramifications for game design and gameplay are staggering and almost universally bad.
Yeah. Well, the thing
we do not want EA to win this. This is like someone sues Hitler. We don't want Hitler to win, but if the lawsuit passes, then video games get banned.
Well, here's the thing, right, is that a lot of these cases lately, the people have been pushing jury trials, juries to decide.
That's bad news.
And if a jury looks at pictures of EA's games, sees evidence that those games were released on the market first, and then sees pictures of Zynga's games, which look basically identical, 99% identical, it's gonna be hard to convince the jury that Zynga wasn't just ripping them off.
But at the same
so
time,
the jury is not going to want to decide in Zynga's favor.
But at the same time, then the appeals would look more.
It's up to the judge to give the jury the correct instructions.
No, I'm saying even if a jury trial happened on appeal, it would probably end up getting into precedence argument and that sort of stuff.
That'd be good. Anyway,
Because but that's the news there. I don't want Zynga to win, but I don't want EA to win either. So I'm hoping that Zynga exhausts its money defending against this, wins, but then goes out of business. But anyway, things of the day. There's been a sort of hobby on the internet for a while now, and it's kind of gained some steam recently because more people were doing it. We linked to things about this a while ago. But trying to play modern games with really low settings just to see what they look like and see what kind of frameworks you get. Yeah, you did it. So this one goes a step further. This is a dude who didn't just set the kind of like in the menu settings down on Half-Life 2. He went and changed all the variables to make Half-Life 2 be as minimal as goddamn possible. And let me tell you, this looks a lot like Quake 1. And it's actually kind of amazing to see how the game is still pretty playable and things are still pretty recognizable.
only because you played it before.
Even then, I could play this because
It's
no, you forget.
on paper it's playable.
Scott, when was the last time you played Doom? And it was not one of these Doom remakes with a higher resolution.
I played the Doom remake with a higher resolution, but I didn't enable the higher resolution, so it still looked like Doom.
Looked like I can't even comprehend Doom anymore.
I can.
My brain is like, what the fuck is that? Unless I turn the resolution up. But anyway, this is actually pretty entertaining to watch. Also, you should totally comment on the guy's video and tell him how amazing it is that it looks just like Minecraft.
Just like everyone does.
Yeah, he has an annotation. He's like, guys, stop telling me it looks like Minecraft. I get an email for every comment. I don't care.
All right, so he could turn that off if he wanted to. If he was smart.
Yeah, anyway.
Anyway, so, I just bought a new computer, and it has a sound card in it, but the sound card's part of the motherboard, and pretty much every sound card these days pretty much just plays digital audio perfectly, as many digital audios as you want, just to speakers, just like your iPhone or whatever, like a stereo. They're pretty much perfect. They're all the same. They don't really matter. They all follow the same Intel AC97 standard thing. They all, there's no freaking difference. You don't even think about it. Your computer can play any sound there is. Of course.
I remember a day
back in the day, computers couldn't play any sound there was. You didn't have enough memory and processing power to actually play digital audio.
Most games had MIDI soundtracks or some equivalent, and even then, it sounded way different. If you had an All-32, it sounded way different than if you had like a regular Sound Blaster or an ad-lib
basically,
card.
computers today have digital audio. You have the audio in a file, like an MP3 or an OGG, that is just the waveform, and then the computer plays it back by converting that digital, data into an analog audio signal and sending it to a speaker. In the olden days, you couldn't store that or process that digital thing and convert it to analog quickly enough or have enough memory to hold on to it, so you couldn't do it that way. You could have analog audio like a vinyl record or a cassette tape and just play it back with a player, but you would have to somehow control the cassette player, have the computer control the play and pause buttons, the cassette player, and rewind, and I don't think anyone ever even did that.
I mean, remember, even like not that long ago, PlayStation 1 games, Red Book audio.
Yeah. So the very first computers for audio, all they had was a PC speaker that basically went beep, boop. And it was like a buzzer and like a doorbell, and you could freaking ring it, and that was pretty much it.
I remember installing old games. One of the things you had to do is set the IRQ and DMA stuff for your sound card.
Right.
And you had to pick, like, do you have an ad lib or the Roland whatever?
Of course. So over the years, they had sound cards, and what sound cards were, and your computer still has one of these in it somewhere, even though it's not used.
It's just on the motherboard unless you're crazy.
It's basically a synthesizer. So it was like you have an instrument, a keyboard, like a Casio keyboard synthesizer built into the computer, and the game basically has, a musical track and then plays the sound card like it's a keyboard, and that's how your computer would make music with a sound card. And because of that, different synthesizers sound different. So different computers sounded different and had different capabilities and could play more noises at once. And this is how the NES made music and how the SNES made music even, right? It was all these old computers had synthesizers in them that the games, the software played. So the software is playing a digital instrument. So this guy wrote this amazing article here that is called The History of Sound Cards and Computer Game Music. And he covers the PC Speaker, the IBM PC Junior and Tandy, the Adlib, the Roland, the Creative Game Blaster, the Sound Blaster, the
I had... My first sound card was this like integrated...
hold on. Roland Sound Canvas, Gravis Ultrasound, Creative Lab Sound Blaster 16, AW32, and then modern sound cards. And he has audio samples from all of these. And the best part was that he got audio samples from this game Sylpheed, which is a really old shooter. But he has like Sylpheed, he has samples from it from PC Speaker, PC Junior, Adlib. He's got Sylpheed running on like 6 or 7 different cards here, or maybe 5 or 6 with the same exact music. And it's like, whoa, you can totally hear, what's going on. The other thing is he kind of left out, like he has the music from Descent and Descent 2, but what he left out was the fact that Descent and Descent 2 were on CD-ROMs and had Red Book audio. So what those would do is you would put Descent in and you start playing it, and if you had a modern sound card with the CD-ROM, had a little cable that ran from the CD-ROM to the sound card, and it would basically play the music straight off the CD like a CD player. So you had real music with those games, but he's not giving you that music. He's giving you the synthesized music from Descent and Descent 2 for people who didn't have CD-ROMs or CD-ROMs hooked up properly.
I remember the one when I finally convinced my dad to buy me a Sound Blaster AWE32, the AW32.
He's also got a lot of Quest for Glory clips here for Rim.
Quest for Glory had some great sound.
He also, let me tell you, the Roland sound canvas friggin' sounds like amazing. It's like this unbelievable synthesizer. It's pretty sweet.
So when I installed it, suddenly I heard the Star Wars theme in TIE Fighter in AW32 MIDI.
Oh, and you had never heard sound before?
I'd heard it before, but it was on this shit MIDI card, so the samples were ass. The AW32 had really good samples built into it, and it sounded, to my young ear, like the best music I'd ever heard come out of a computer.
Yeah.
Because that was before MP3s.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the meta moment, you realize, guys, that we're going to be at PAX Prime and PAX Dev.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. PAX Prime, Friday, 3:30 p.m. in the Wolfman Theater, Short Subjects in Gaming. One of the mini panels within that we're doing is called On the Ethics of Mind Control, and we're basically going to have the discussion that Scott and I almost had just now. And at PAX Dev, if any of you are going, Scott, myself, Luke Crane, Jared Sorensen, Avery Alex, and Conrad Kraling will be doing Academia versus Reality, Psychology Game Theory in Games in the Grand 2 Ballroom, Wednesday, 2:30 p.m.
Alrighty.
Aw, shit, son.
Shit.
It's on.
Big time.
MagFest is a ways out, but we'll be there.
Okay.
We'll be there.
Other meta, I just want to say, I started this Geeknights newsletter, and I've actually been mailing it about once every 2 weeks. So, and in that newsletter, I actually put some moderate amount of work into rewriting it every time. I don't know if anyone's actually reading it, but I can sort of see numbers. So, subscriptions, that people keep subscribing to it, and there are people who are reading it and people who are clicking on the links in it.
Remember, there is unique content, exclusive content.
There is a small amount of exclusive content in this newsletter.
There's a newsletter thing of the day that you'll never get on the regular website.
Yeah, and there's also newsletter fan art. So if you want to submit fan art, you want to submit questions for us to answer in the newsletter, stuff like that. We're just trying to increase our listener engagement. So newsletter's not a bad place to do that. Why not subscribe or whatever, and then if it sucks, unsubscribe. But at least tell us, so that we know how to make it better or whatever.
Okay, so tournaments. Obviously, the reason...
Well, what is a tournament?
You want to look up the dictionary definition? Because to me, a tournament is a thing at a convention that takes way too much time, so I never do it, even though I know I could win some of these things.
Well, to me, what a tournament is you want to determine somehow who is the best at a particular thing.
From a limited field of contenders.
Right.
And simultaneously, I think equally important to most tournaments is to provide an entertaining spectacle for the people who are
Sometimes.
Yeah,
That's
well,
that's
I'm saying for me,
Yeah.
that is an equally
But I mean,
important thing.
I think the purpose of a tournament is that you have some sort of competition and you want to determine who's the best. So let's say you wanted to have, a race. So for example, you could say, okay, everyone, ready, set, go. And then you have one race, and whoever gets to the end wins.
Now, for just a
Ta-da!
race, that probably is the best way to do
That
it.
might work. But the problem is what if the competition is such that only a small number of people can participate, or you can't really figure out who's the best in the world with only one iteration of the contest? So who's the best at Puerto Rico? Well, we got 5 guys playing. A guy wins. Is he the best in the world? No, only 5 people played. Well, 100 people can't play one game of Puerto Rico. Of course not. That's why you need a tournament. You play multiple iterations of the thing in some structure that will determine a grand champion of the thing. And that is what a tournament is for.
Yep, according to Wikipedia, a tournament is a competition involving a relatively large number of competitors, all participating in a sport or game. More specifically, the term may be used in either of 2 overlapping... Anyway.
Yeah.
So... the reason we're talking about this, which you should know unless you live under a rock, is that teams in the Olympics were disqualified for trying to win the medal.
Yep.
That is pretty much the most succinct way I can put it.
So here's the deal. So they were playing badminton, right? Which is actually, I like badminton
It's a super
lot.
fun sport. I'm okay at it.
I'm a big fan. So the way the tournament was structured was it was a round-robin tournament, which means you actually, well, it's more like the World Cup, where you play in a group. So they'll group like 4 teams together, and those 4 teams will each play each other. And the 2, you win or lose against the other 3 teams in your group. So you play 3 matches, basically. And if you win more than the other teams in the group, the top 2 teams in each group move on, and the bottom 2 teams in each group don't move on. So basically, you cut the field in half. Everyone plays 3 games. Now, this is sort of a good format because, if like your first game is fluky, it gives you some, chances to win, even though you lost a game or 2, if you are actually better.
It can also, depending on, there's different algorithms for sorting round robin tournaments or deciding who plays who and when. You can have round robins where you play multiple games against people. You can have round robins where you don't actually play against every person if they're very large.
So it allows you to have a very large field of competitors without having to, really, and filter them down quickly. Down so you can get a single elimination tournament afterwards. So
Now,
it's not really bad structure at all.
Now the problem lied in that the round robin format for the Olympics for badminton was basically to decide who qualifies for the single elimination real tournament. And as a result, because of the way it shook down, as you know, in a single elimination tournament, having a higher or lower seed determines who you play.
Right.
And in single elimination, that means, round 1, me and Scott play. Whoever loses is out of the tournament. So Scott and I, way back, we ran an outlaw tournament, like Atari 2600 in our apartment, and we did a single elimination tournament. Now, had Scott and I played against each other in the first round, that would have been BS because we were basically the 2 best players.
Right, but
one of the best players would have been eliminated immediately.
So it would have looked as if I sucked because I lost in the first round. But in reality, I was the second or first best player. You just don't realize that because I played against the other best player in round 1. So the tournament results, right, I would have won the silver medal if the seeding would have been different. But instead, I went dick and bupkis because I played against the gold medal guy in the first match instead of in the finals. And that's why you have seeding in a single elimination tournament so that the final rankings are accurate. So, imagine if you played a single elimination tournament, you lost in the first round, but you could, if you played against the silver medal guy, you would have destroyed him because you're way better than him. Well, that's just wrong. So there's seeding going on. After you play in these group matches, they arrange everyone in the single elimination tournament according to seeds.
Now,
the best guy plays the worst guy and so forth, right? Same way the NCAA basketball does
part
it.
of the reason you might do this, forget the math of it or tournament theory. You guys realize tournament theory is a for real, serious field of study.
Of course, yeah.
But one reason you would do this is basically to reward people who, in the qualifications of a tournament, for example, did exceptionally well by giving them easier matches or even buys. Meaning,
so if
you don't have to play in the first round.
Yeah, you did really well during the regular season of, football. So now in the playoffs, which are a tournament, you get to skip the first round and you get home field advantage. And, this means that you're more likely to go. It's going to be easier for you to go farther in the tournament, but the best team is still going to win. And if you look at, the playoffs, it's still right.
It's analogous to like in Formula One. You have the qualifying lap, and then your pole position, everything's determined by that. If you spend more effort in that, you've kind of spent resources of your car to get ahead, so you're rewarded for that. It makes sure that players, even in pre-tournament play or final round play, have an incentive to try really hard to make the game entertaining and to do well, where if there wasn't a reward for doing better in the regular season, once you're qualified, there's literally no reason to even show up.
What it is you want to have a single elimination style of tournament because that's pretty much like everyone you play, you beat someone. That means you're better than them. You play against someone else who beats someone, and in the end, the winner is the best in a single elimination tournament, right? Pretty much. But the single elimination tournament has a flaw in that there is a lot of room for flukiness. What if I'm the best, but in one fluke match, there was wind because it was golf or something, and I lost because of that.
There's a reason the Stanley Cup is 7 games.
That's right. You want to remove flukiness so you can determine more accurately the true champion, and that's why prior to the single elimination tournament, you have this multi-round thing to remove elements of luck and chance and, to really know rigorously that the gold medal winner is the winner. So that's why you combine things like, you have a qualifying and, to test rigorously who is the best.
Now, again, we're still assuming that the primary goal of a tournament is to figure out who is, in fact, the best.
Right.
Now, obviously, you can try to game the structure of a tournament, much like if you look at voting. Like
the tournament is a game. The games themselves are a game within the larger game. The tournament is the game you want to win.
Well, I'm saying look at like first past the post versus runoff, all these different ways of voting. You have the situation where you might want to act in a way that is conducive to winning this particular tournament. I did this myself in high school. I was in Quiz Bowl. Our school was pretty renowned. We had good people, and we would often lose a match on purpose to get our own utility, which might be we know who we'd be up against if we were seeded at X, so maybe we would lose the game to make sure our seed was different to play someone else in the first round of the next tournament.
There are also other situations like, who's the best, rock, paper, or scissors? I don't know, right? Well, if you're rock, you're going to want to play scissors in round 1 so you can make it to round 2. Now, I'm playing against, I don't know, wood. I'm just making up other guys. It's Rock
Wood,
versus...
I'm playing against Peace.
So Rock's playing against Wood. Rock has already won enough matches because he's fucking Rock, right? He's already going to be in the tournament. If he loses to Wood, he gets to play scissors in round 1. If he beats Wood, which he might be able to do, he's going to play against paper in round 1.
Or forget that. Look at personal stuff. In board games, we talk about how one of the worst things that can happen is when someone who cannot win the game has the power to determine the winner of the game. It's generally a sign of poor game design.
Oh, yeah.
And in tournaments, it's the same way. If you can have a situation where I'm still playing around, I'm not eliminated from the tournament, I still have to play around, but I cannot qualify for the next round.
Right, so like we're doing the round robin thing. I've lost 2 matches, but I have to play a third match in my group.
But now, I'm playing against
it's
Scott.
Impossible for me to move on to the real tournament, but I'm playing against this guy. It's like, well, I can do some dick things to really screw this guy over.
Or I could lose on purpose to him to make sure he gets into the qualifier instead of my rival.
Maybe the other guy is a neighboring country that I'm friendly with, and if he wins, my rival is now not going to be in the tournament. Whereas if I had played to win, maybe I could have beaten this guy because he's the scissors to my rock, and then my rival would have also entered the tournament, though I would not have.
So what happened in the Olympics? Basically, there were teams where in the round robin
very,
phase,
very good teams,
they were in a situation where both teams had no more reason to play and actually, in fact, had a vested interest in losing.
Yes, even
Now,
though
you've seen Three Stooges where two people are trying to throw a boxing match at the same time. Not fun to watch.
No. So this caused big problems. Number one, there is a rule in the books that they have, which is sort of a BS rule, but it is a rule.
It's a Shadows over Camelot rule.
Exactly. That says you have to try to win every match. So they broke that rule and were disqualified. So
no, I would argue
that's all there is to it.
I would argue that rule, because it very heavily...
The rule says you have to try to win the match.
Yes.
It did not say you had to win the tournament.
What I'm saying is that rule is broken in the sense that it relies upon intent.
Yep.
So then the skill becomes, can I throw the match without it appearing that I'm doing so?
Exactly.
What right does the referee have to say, you are trying to throw the match?
But in
How
this-
do you
in
know
this
the person
case-
isn't just sucking?
In this case, it is two people trying to throw the boxing match. There was no question that they were trying to throw the match at all.
Yep.
No,
No,
none
this situation
whatsoever.
there have been soccer games that came down to two teams trying to score into their own nets.
There have. I've seen them.
Yeah. So this happens in a lot of sports, and every time it is because of poor game design. If there is ever a situation where a player who cannot win the game can decide who does win the game,
Or somebody who could win is trying to lose a part of a tournament on purpose to gain an advantage, right? They are not putting forth the full effort as you would intend. That is because the game is broken. The blame lies with the game, not with the player.
the people who wrote the rules for this tournament in the Olympics
Are fail.
fucked up. They Hunger Games did.
Right, but it caused them a lot of problems because now you have people who bought tickets to watch this, and now they're watching two teams trying to lose.
No, that's the second part. We care in the Olympics nominally about who is the best at something in the world, but we also care about whether or not it is entertaining to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And if we just cared about who is best, the rules of this game basically said that one of the skills of being best is being able to lose on purpose while appearing that you're not doing so.
Exactly.
So thus, it's not fun to watch those matches. I think the punishment against these players is ridiculous. I think whoever...
Well, I think it's you can't really argue with it too much because they did have the bullshit rule of you must try to win the match.
But
and
at the
they
same
didn't even
time-
try to look like they were trying to win the match.
True, but at the same time, I feel like that rule is... That's like if we play a game in Puerto Rico and I'm going to win and you can't win, but there's
Right.
a way for you to guarantee that
But
someone
there's no
else
rule in
wins.
Puerto Rico that says you must at all times attempt to get as many victory points as you can. And I choose like Craftsman even though I've got a fuck ton of barrels.
Here's a better example. Look at Power Grid. Very often, players will fuck up or pull back on purpose.
To use the rubber band.
Yes, or look at stadium bicycle racing,
Yeah, where they go
where people
slow
stop or go slow on purpose.
to start from behind.
Yeah, the fact is, anytime something like that happens, it means that whoever designed the game made a mistake. The game is poorly designed. Don't patch it. Anytime you have a soft rule like you can kind of say what kind of cards you got in your hand, or the player has to try their best, that's bullshit.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the tournament was broken, even though there's nothing wrong with the game of badminton itself. It's just their tournament structure was fucked up. So let's talk about, different kinds of tournaments and their pros and cons.
I am a big fan when I am in tournaments of double elimination.
Yes.
Even though it's a giant pain in the ass to organize.
Yep.
It's the most fun. It reduces flukiness to a good degree. And I just really like brackets.
Yeah, the more you try to reduce flukiness, you're going to run into, problems of people trying to lose on purpose, to get seeding. So, the double elimination allows
thing is,
you to screw up one time.
You can eliminate the problem of people trying to lose on purpose by, one, making sure that it is pretty much always to the player's advantage to have a better seed.
Mm-hmm.
And two, by setting it up to where if there could be a situation where a player would be playing against someone who wanted to lose, that match does not happen and there's a bye instead.
Well, the problem with advantage of better seed, right, is that the rock paper scissors problem, right? It's like, well,
but most,
theoretically
most
in any
sports
tournament
do not have that problem.
Well, for example, Street Fighter might have that problem, right? Where, okay, if I try hard to get the highest seed possible, they're going to put me against a guy who's worse. Oh, but that guy plays this character in this style, which is really bad for me, even though everyone else is pretty good at beating it. But I'm way better than that guy.
But at the same
so
time,
if I win, I'm going to get seeded against him. If I lose, I'll get seeded against a guy who's a little better than him, but plays with a style style and a character that I'm really good against. So I should lose on purpose.
2 ways around that, because even while people try to use logic like that, one, a lot of times the skills aren't nearly, or well, I guess they're more fungible than you'd expect. Players can play different characters. It's like the sideboard in Magic tournaments, for example.
Yep.
Magic tournaments, by the way, have a fucked up.
Magic tournaments are really fucked up. And they don't even care. They're just like, whatever.
The incentivization of like sanctioned Magic tournaments. A game theorist would shoot himself if he read how these things work.
Let's talk about this. The reason Magic tournaments are designed the way they are, right? And I don't know too many details, but basically I
read like 4 articles on this recently.
Okay, one of the things that they optimize for, which is pretty interesting, is, you got poker tournaments have sort of a similar thing, kind of, which is the player, right? A single elimination tournament. You enter, you lose immediately, you're out. It's like, well, that sucks. They're trying to give the player more enjoyment, even if they lose, so that you can play more games, you can have more fun.
Because the people who play Magic tend to go to a Magic event and only play Magic the whole time.
Right, so like I went to a Magic tournament once, and I did single elimination. I entered, I got my ass kicked, and then I sat around and did nothing till another tournament started that I could actually qualify for.
I made a kid cry in a Magic tournament once.
Right.
Because I played with a 400-card deck, and I beat him anyway.
Yeah, so, but it's like if you were to, so they make a Magic tournament to where you play a bunch of games no matter what. So you enter and you have a lot of fun playing a lot of Magic, even if you keep getting your ass kicked. And so they want to optimize for that to make more people have fun at the tournaments, keep coming, keep paying to play. It's a pay to entry. You want to get your money's worth, play a lot of games, but the result is the badminton problem times a million.
Now,
right?
most people are familiar with single elimination because any convention, any nerdy thing you go to, speaking as someone who helps run big conventions, it's a pain in the ass to run a tournament, and they take forever. Single elimination is really the only format that is even reasonably feasible to run on limited resources.
You know what my favorite kind of tournament is?
Huh?
Everyone come up, right, and gets X number of tries at a thing, and then you get something with a score. Right?
Those are boring because the kinds of tournaments I like are direct competition tournaments.
I do like direct competition, but it's like that tournament though works the best mechanically, even though it's not entertaining, to really watch or be in, right? But like, imagine if everyone played Dig Dug. You get 3 game overs, your highest score counts, that removes flukiness, and we just post the scores, highest score at the end of the day is the winner.
But much more
Everyone
fun,
can,
more fun is 2-player Dig Dug, players eliminated.
Oh, yeah.
That's much more entertaining to everyone involved.
Of course, but if you want to determine who's the best at Dig Dug, that's a great format. It doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't have any, bullshit trying to lose. You just try to get the fucking highest score you can each time, no matter what.
The thing is, in well-designed tournaments, very rarely is there actually a real incentive to lose.
Mm-hmm.
It only when they are poorly designed does this come into play. This badminton tournament could have been fairly easily reworked to where no one would ever have actually wanted to lose a round.
It could have.
Or a match.
But I mean, there's all these factors, right? Entertainment for spectator, entertainment for player. Does it actually determine the true winner? There are tournaments you could set up where they're so flawed that you might win the tournament, but might not actually be the best player there because the tournament was broken. Making sure no one tries to lose, all these different things, you can't have all of them. You need to choose some of them above others, right? There is no tournament structure I've ever seen that allows for all of those things to be maximized to perfection. It does not exist. There's probably some mathematical
I just found a great example.
that it can't exist.
I don't know if it was this year or not, but apparently at one Olympics, the Japanese women's soccer team played a game to a draw on purpose because it meant that in the tournament season, they wouldn't have to travel far to the next round.
Oh, see? More factors coming into play.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Oh, I found a whole list of Olympic things that are almost identical to what the badminton players did that was totally okay.
Yeah.
Like in cycling, with getting into a peloton and slowing it down on purpose to let your teammate get ahead, stuff like that. So really what it comes down to is if you are making a tournament from a game theorist perspective to determine the best player, there's math. Use the math and come up with the best tournament.
That's right.
If you're making a tournament in the real world, use the tournament that causes the most entertainment to happen for all involved.
I thought of another example, right? let's say you're having a tournament of a sport where you could actually become exhausted. You might want to get a seed to where you're going to play your next game later in the day to have more resting time. Whereas you might seed against if you win.
You know how Quiz Bowl got around that?
If you win, you might seed against someone who's really bad and you're guaranteed to beat them, maybe, but you're going to have to play them pretty much right now.
Quiz Bowl got around that by not telling you when the matches would be or where they would be until after the seeding was done.
Concealing information from the players is very good.
Because as soon as it's uncertain, your decision's arbitrary.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel... we could do a whole separate show, I think, on specifically tournaments and conventions.
Well, I mean,
because I realized
let's talk about tournaments and conventions.
Okay, so I played in my entire life. I played in a Magic tournament. I played in a Dungeons and Dragons tournament.
Whoa.
Yeah, at Michigan.
Yeah.
Like one of those hardcore like points from a
Settlers
dungeon crawl.
tournament.
I played in a like sanctioned Settlers tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And until recently, I hadn't really played in any other tournaments because when I go to a con, a tournament, like I'll look at a tournament, like Puerto Rico tournament, I'll be like, I guarantee I could win that shit.
I could come close, guaranteed. I don't know, it depends who's playing.
Yeah, I'm confident.
There's that guy.
I've got Carcassonne tournament.
Yeah, you could win that. But I mean, remember, there's that guy at the PAX tournaments who has like the freaking armor of medals because he just freaking plays all of them and wins everything. Dominion tournament.
But then I look and I'm like, all right, Dominion tournament, 4.5 hours. And then I look in that 4.5 hours, I can go get a beer and a steak, see a panel, play like 2 board games.
Yeah,
or
different board games, not the same one 10 times.
And be in a tournament that takes forever.
Well, and the thing is, you're not going to necessarily, when you join a tournament, you're not necessarily going to be playing it the entire time, but you sort of have to hang around for when your next match is, or maybe they'll tell you the time and you have to come back.
It never works. They always fall behind.
Yeah, you're leaving and coming back constantly to play a game, leave. You're playing the same game over and over, and it's kind of cool to try to win the tournament. Especially if there's good prizes.
But I'm at PAX for the variety of the experience, not for the one tournament that takes half my day.
Yeah, it's much better for these sorts of tournaments, to be standalone. If there's a tournament in PAX, it's like, well, I'm not going to do that when I could PAX. But if there's just a Dominion tournament in New York City, and
my God,
that's all it is, it's like, of course I'm going to show up. It's not like it's competing with anything, especially if it's in the winter or something. It's
so crewmate Rowe let us in on the secret. Because, PAX, one of the things they do, if you win a tournament...
You get a medal.
You get this huge-ass solid medal.
Yeah, I don't want to... It's not actually that huge, but I have ones, and you don't. So, yeah, it's fucking gigantic.
So, what she told us was to pick a tournament that won't take long on, like, Sunday morning.
Yeah, when no one will show up. Especially, one of those tournaments for a less popular game where not too many people are going to enter. So there'll only be, like, maybe 1 or 2 rounds.
So Scott and I show up for this Tsuro tournament. We're like, all right.
That's a short game, too. It's not a game that takes a long time.
We're like, look, no one will show up. It's going to be a 50-50 chance one of us is getting that medal, and then we can say we won a medal.
Yep.
Then we show up, and there were a bunch of people there.
There were 7 people total, which is the maximum for one game of Tsuro. So we only had to play in the one Tsuro.
And the company that published it was there, and they were like, look, we're using some rules that make the game not 100% random. They were really good rules.
Yeah, and we played a few games, and it's like it was sort of like an F1-ish system where, the way F1 works is you have a Grand Prix, and you win the Grand Prix, which you always want to do because why wouldn't you want to win the Grand Prix? No one tries to lose. If you come in first place, you get 10 points. If you come in second place, you get 7 points, whatever the points are, going down to eventually I think 8th place gets 1 point, and if less than 8th place is 0 points. And then you add up the points you get from all the different races, and whoever has the most points at the end of all the races wins. So it was a similar system to that, like that. A first place gets you this many points, and that makes you always want to win everything.
Yep. So it went really well. Now Scott and I, often talk about how badass we are at board games, and we're very kind of full of ourselves. And people who go to Nerd NYC often look at us like, but then we win.
Yeah.
So they can't really say much. So we show up to this thing. Scott wins the first round ridiculously. I win the next round ridiculously. We pretty much tie in the third round, and it was a perfect draw between me and Scott.
Yep.
So in sudden death,
me and Rim had a tiebreaker, and I won.
The tiebreaker came down to 1 card.
Yep. I won.
Yep. Scott won. One
but
card.
Yeah, the flaw in this kind of tournament, the F1 style, right, is great because number one, great entertainment for the participant. You get to play a lot because you just keep playing to add up more points. Suddenly halfway through the games, the guy in first could start losing and you could start winning and you can come back. It's also great for the spectator because every match most of them are really interesting. The problem it has is that problem of losing guy can screw things up for winning guy. You could be like, for example, maybe the last Grand Prix of the season doesn't matter because the guy already has so many points, even if he disqualifies himself and
There's a great
the
video.
second place guy wins, he still wins the whole thing.
There's a great video from some race. It was on College Humor a while ago. It was it wasn't Grand Prix. It was like some minor circuit racing.
Yep.
And basically a guy got passed and he wasn't going to win. So he cut across the grass and rammed his rival.
Yep. Let's say Rim is in first place and he's going to win the championship as well as the Grand Prix. But if he comes in second place or less, he will not win the championship. So, he's coming up to pass me, right? So I'm lapped. I'm losing. I'm so many points away. Even if I won the race and everyone else crashed, I would not win the championship.
It's a Mario Kart to going backwards.
So, yeah, I'll just freaking get in front of Rim and not let him pass me until the second place guy can catch up to him or crash into Rim or do whatever I can to make Rim not first place. And then someone who is lost, can have has no chance of winning, can have a huge influence on who wins the championship. Because I can throw a monkey wrench in there because I'm still participating, even though my chances of winning the whole thing are
Now, well-designed
zero.
games and well-designed tournaments minimize the possibility.
You know
of
what they
this
do
as
in
much as
F1,
possible.
actually? F1 has a very clever in-game solution, the blue flag, which is you're getting lapped, like the first place guy comes around you, they wave the blue flag at you, you have to let him go or else you're fucked. So that's not, the worst solution in the world.
Yeah. Like in Suro, it could have been a problem because people who aren't winning around could trivially just attack and kill someone who's doing well.
That's true.
And I think the only reason that didn't happen was that basically Scott and I were trash talking each other the entire time to such an epic degree that everyone else was kind of just sitting back watching us.
Yeah. That's another thing is you have to consider the game itself, right? Is not, is for different, even though you have the same exact tournament structure, which will have the same flaws no matter what the game is. Certain games, like it might be impossible to try to lose on purpose. It's like there's no way in this game for me to lose on purpose, or there is no way in this game for me to attack another player. I can't bring anyone down. So even though if I could do that, it would mess the tournament up, there's no way in game to do it. So it doesn't matter. And you want to match up the tournament to the kind of game it is to take advantages of those characteristics, to match them up with the flaws of the tournament so you can get a better result. All right. Anything else to say about tournaments?
Not really.
Yeah.
I should get the video. I have all the video from that Outlaw tournament, which, as I recall, I won.
Okay. But yeah, tournaments are awesome. They're a game in and of themselves.
There's a sheriff in town.
Yeah, I suggest you try to experiment with different kinds of tournaments. There's
or
a lot.
Just study tournament theory and read a book. And
there are lots of weird ones out there. So like, find a short game to play with your friends, like Spot It, or even Rock Paper Scissors, or Tic Tac Toe, or something. Not Tic Tac Toe, and play a tournament with your friends and make the game the tournament and not the game itself, and you could actually have quite a bit of fun, and when you win the whole thing you feel way more like a champion than if you just win one game.
Or like, for example, my favorite actual form of tournament is, even though we don't really do anything with it, challenges.
Oh, challenge. Okay.
I challenge you for the title. I challenge you for the rank.
Pro wrestling type.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We should do that with board games.
Someone holds on to the championship. They're the champion.
Why don't we
determine some by the first game, and then you have to beat the champion to take the belt away from the champion.
I feel like we should do that in our own group just for like Tigris and Euphrates.
The best thing about that method is that you don't need any seeding because basically just have two people play. Whoever wins is the champion, and then if you can beat the champion, now you're the new champion. The problem is that
the extricating the order of multiple challenges, or
that too.
How often do I just challenge Scott every day until he gets pissed off and loses? Just so I don't keep doing it.
Whoever is the current champion ends up getting worn out and might lose to someone who challenges later. Like, I just got the championship. You challenge me.
That's why you make a laddered structure of challenges where you can't challenge Mike Tyson in round one, a punch out. You got to beat all these other mooks first.
That's right. Like in boxing, it'll be like, okay, you want to challenge the champ, right? Well, you actually have to win this other tournament, and by winning that other tournament against a bunch of mooks, you earn the prize in that tournament is the right to challenge the champ. So it's like whoever wins this whole thing, the best of these guys with a regular single elimination tournament, then gets to play the champ.
It's good to be the champ.
It is good to be the champ because the champ doesn't have to play in the tournament, so he's super not tired. And now the reverse problem of dude just fought like 6 fights in a tournament. Now he's gonna fight the champ. It's like, yeah, champ's got a big advantage.
It's nice that I'm the sheriff.
Sheriff of what? Sheriff of
What?
Foxton?
A sheriff. Ha! Sheriff of nothing. This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.